Salut pour tous et soyez les bienvenus dans le programme Planète Équitable avec Ede Zanetti. We are going to talk about the IPBES on our next episodes, the Intergovernmental Panel on Biodiversity and Ecosystem Services. It is the maximum organism, let's say, within the UN system dedicated to biodiversity and ecosystem services. It emerged in 2012, coming from the efforts of the FAO, the Food and Agricultural Organization of the United Nations, from the UNDP, the United Nations Development Program, from UNEP, the United Nations Environmental Program, and UNICEF, the United Nations Conference on Education. So those four organizations were supplying the technical capacity to organize information, data and information to support decision making on biodiversity and ecosystem services. And in 2012 in Panama it became officially the IPBES, which is nowadays hosted in Bonn, Germany, and has a unit that is operating in Latin America in Bogota, Colombia. The IPBES has put itself to work in order to organize the information on biodiversity and ecosystem services globally. It has done the global assessment on biodiversity and ecosystem services, which included, of course, Latin America and Brazil. We participated at this assessment in order to organize the information and support decision making on the issues regarding biodiversity and ecosystem services. And from that effort we saw emerging the payment for ecosystem services, the payment for environmental services, which is one of the instruments within the assessment that governments and the private sector can uptake in order to promote an economy which is based on biodiversity and ecosystem services. Nowadays we are participating of the bioeconomy assessment, the business and biodiversity assessments. We'll be talking about this in our next episodes. So let God's peace and the love that builds be our weapons on our daily struggle for justice. Ede Zanetti for tous les amis africains.